Quick disclaimer, this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing here should be considered financial advice. Always do your own research and understand the risks before investing.
Welcome back, everyone, to another Bitcoin update. So here we are. We said in our last update that we would expect at least some sort of a cool off and a sell off, which is exactly kind of what we see over these last couple of hours since the last update. It's still pretty much the same thing like we showed with liquidity. We have scooped up some of that liquidity area within that 70,000 range, and here's kind of the scenarios in which we would be looking for the bullish and bearish case. What we have been tracking for the last couple of weeks in our bullish case is a larger degree A, B, C, and an A wave corrective move to the upside, where this A wave could potentially get into this resistance zone between 76,000 to 85,000 as well for that C wave. If we are indeed in the start of this C wave, we could track something like this, as in a larger degree, 1, 2, and then this could be all of this sideways chop could be part of a third wave, where this could have been a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then possibly another high in a third wave, or maybe a retest of this trend line before we go higher in that fifth wave as well. Or technically this could have all been the third wave as well, and this could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move up. So there's a few different scenarios of how that A wave could play out. I'm just kind of going through some of the quick ones. Essentially, our confirmation of what we want to see for that A wave is, first, we need a break above our trend line of rejection, which is where we're talking about, where we could have a possible resistance zone as well. We haven't broke below this important swing low here at 69,000, which we said if we break below that, it could be our indication that we are coming back to retest the trend line or enter our larger support zone, for where we could either begin this orange fifth wave to the downside, or we could just be going for a B wave extension that did not top over here. So if we were to fall below this, break below 69,000, test the support line or trend line, and then break below, and we get a B wave extension, which there we could work on another structure to the upside for that A wave. Now, our two indications, one, like we said, the 69,000 level, as well as this trend line as well, and then our larger support zone between 60,000 to 65,371. So those are our important supports and structures and trend lines that we need to look for in order to indicate that we are holding those and that we could still be in the potential of this A wave to the upside. It could very well that this could just form a overall 1, 2 setup where we retest the trend line, bounce off of it, 3, 4, in a 5 wave move up. Otherwise, this here as well could be a 1, 2 retest this line down here, and then we could bounce off it as well. What we need to see is we need to see a sustained break above our trend line. What would be nice to see, because what has happened the past 2 times we get here, is we get up to the trend line, maybe we break a little above it, and then we get an immediate rejection, which is what we saw over the past couple of hours, which we said it wasn't really unexpected to see happen as well. It's a weekend right now, so volume is very low, so I wouldn't really expect any major moves, maybe just a little bit of chop or possibly a test or sell off to these 2 trend lines, maybe even a retest up here. Otherwise, our base case would just be more sideways chop, nothing too crazy with the weekend. Now, when Sunday comes along and the market will open on the nighttime for some of the other time zones, we could see a bit of a volatility there. It wouldn't really be surprising to see a sell-off and a retest of these lines and then a possible bounce off of it if we are in the A wave to the upside in that C wave. Now, for our bearish case, which is this orange fourth wave, this could just all be a corrective A, B, C, just a normal 3-wave corrective move. And then this technically could be a 1, 2 setup to the downside, just because we did not ever break above this high over here. We got close to it, but we never broke above it. And this could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move down for that final 5th wave in the orange that we have over here. If we break below support, then we can start to add this 5th wave support as well. As of right now, it's either scenario isn't kind of makes sense, if that makes sense in a way. For example, in a 4th wave, they do typically get drawn out and they can be very complex, confusing, and long, especially larger degree 4th waves. And they do have that tendency to go sideways like it is right now. But also in a corrective larger degree B wave bounce like we've been tracking in the last couple of months, like we said, would most likely play out, but obviously not guaranteed because it is a counter trend move. Like we've shown in past cycles, these moves can be super choppy back and forth where we just keep testing trend lines and we bounce off them. For example, I'll show you a example of where this happened from last cycle as well. During the bear market here we go. This move back here during June through August, we had a very choppy sideways motion, but overall it was leaning upward. And if you actually go to how much this overall move went up from the very low to the high, it went up around 42%. So it is a very choppy move like you just saw in a bear market because it's a counter trend move, but they do tend to have at least a 30 to 40% move. Technically, we already do see a 20% move from the downside, which for some people would say that is a rally in itself, but as long as we're holding support and trend lines, we are still keeping our base case as well for this B wave. If we do get one more low in that 5th wave, that could very well, it's still way too early to tell, but I just kind of want to throw it out there. It could very well be the final low of a possible bear market. Obviously, that is not guaranteed. That's just all speculation. But if we were to say that this were all of the B wave rally, then that wouldn't really be too crazy to say that our next low could be the possible final low of wherever we end up. But that is way too early to tell. That's all speculation, and obviously that is not guaranteed. All we can really look at is just the levels and some of our indicators, in which we will go over right now. But I just kind of want to show that example of both these moves make sense to happen in a 4th wave corrective move. It can be choppy before we head lower, and in a B wave corrective move like we just saw, it can also be choppy in moving up as well. Now I'm leaning a little bit more towards this corrective A, B, C to the upside, whether it's in the white scenario or the orange one. In terms of what we've seen right now, we are holding this support zone in our trend lines, so that leans a little bit more in favor of the white A wave to the upside, but obviously at any point that can always break. So if we go over our RSI, in which we have been looking at, like we said in the last video, it could very well have been a double top structure where we tested the high 2 times, and now we could either be heading for that larger support zone between 60,000 and 65,000. And if you actually look at the 4-hour RSI here, we do see a very, not a 100% divergence, but you can clearly see that the strength of the rally that we had here, where we got a higher high, is lower compared to the one that we had over here, which could also be seen as a double top for the RSI as well. But if you look at this one over here as well, we do see a slower strength rally within this next one. So moving on to the daily as well, we are still moving up in that uptrend. We have seen a bit more volume in terms of overall daily wise, where we had inconsistent volume compared to the rallies back here. We would usually just have one big green day with lots of volume. Seems like here we've had a steady volume every day, so that is definitely nice to see as well, that buyers are interested. Or in terms of the rallies that we just had these past 2 days, volume is obviously interested. Now we are resetting our RSI on the daily right now. We have this daily trend line that we have been getting rejected from. We pointed this out during January as well, and that ended up being the point where we got rejected on the chart as well as the RSI as well. So if that were to play out again, we could see a possible rejection between 65 to about 70 within that trend line if that trend line were to play out again. On the weekly RSI as well, we have gotten away from oversold and we have gotten back into the lower neutral area, where if we do see that B wave corrective bounce, we definitely could see that RSI being reset on the weekly as well, where we could get another low and then have a bullish divergence on the weekly. So that would definitely be very nice to see as well. If we go over the liquidity, on the 30-day, we still have many more longs compared to shorts. However, shorts, since this sell-off, they have started to pile up again within that same area, 71,000 to that 75,000 range, where we have some smaller ones back here to about 80,000. But these are our main ones, kind of like we were talking about in the last video as well. And for our longs, we have the same ones that have been mainly building up between the 68 to 70,000 range as well. And then we obviously have the smaller clashes of leverage back here within that larger support zone between 60,000 to 65,000. If we go over to our liquidity map on the 3-day, or if we could do we'll start with the 3-day. On the 3-day, like we were just pointing out, that 68,000 to 70,000 range, that's where most of the liquidity is building up. And if we go over the next week, which could be possible for this trading week as well, we can see some of the levels as well. We are still within that 68 to 70,000 region. And on the 2-week as well, which could line up for the end of this month, we could see there we go, 75,000 to that larger 65,000 zone, and then obviously the smaller clash between 68 to 70,000 as well. Now over the next 48 hours, which would be this weekend, we see obviously the lower boundary of that 70,000 level as well. So just going based off of liquidity, it would not be surprising to see a retest of this trend line to liquidate that 68 to 70,000 range, where that would form a 1-2 setup with a higher low as well, and which we could bounce off from as well. And then once we kind of get that larger A wave, we could see more longs start to build up, or we could get a corrective 3-wave move in a B wave, and then we could start that C wave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-wave move up, all in that larger degree B wave corrective bounce, where we can start working on one more low, assuming we get rejected in that larger resistance zone that we have been talking about. So yeah, that's pretty much everything for this update. Hopefully that's all simple. Slower day for the weekend. We just kind of have to give it time, and our base case that we are looking at right now in terms of liquidity and RSI, it wouldn't be super surprising if we see a retest of this level at 69,000 or this trend line here around the 67,000 range, which we could bounce off from. If we break below it, just know that we are either heading for a larger support zone for a B wave or a possible start of that 5th wave. If we do not test these trend lines and we just bounce straight up and we have a sustained break above, and then we consolidate and break above again, which would be our sustained break, that could be our indicator that we are indeed in this A wave, and we can start to track where we could see a top for this A wave, and then once we have a top for the A wave, we could add B wave support. It's super frustrating right now just because there is no clear trend, and right now we are still in the exact middle, so trying to trade these middle trades can be very difficult and frustrating just because there is no real trend, there is no real setup, there is no real confirmation of anything. So not guaranteed, not financial advice, but usually it's always best to find a setup of a confirmation for A wave top and then having that B wave support for a possible trade. But not financial advice, not guaranteed as well. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.